What a night from the Wayne Profit Classic as we move on for Game 2 of action featuring the Center Colonels and your hometown Lynchburg Hornets. Non-conference battle. Hi, everybody. Evan Gates alongside my good friend Andy Watson. Game 1 really lived up to the expectation. The Wayne Profit Classic returning for the first time since 2019 went down to the final buzzer, Andy.
It did, yeah. Randolph made this short trip across the Hill City to take on Marymount in Game 1. And, I mean, it really was an exciting contest. It was one that I thought might be a little bit of an uphill battle for the Wildcats, but they really showed out and shut down. It all started on the defensive end for the Wildcats. Lynchburg will take on Marymount tomorrow, and the Wildcats will take on Center in that game. But, yeah, very exciting, and I'm hoping this one is just as exciting.
For sure, and we go into the pregame stats. We know that there are two teams that are relatively even matched. An interesting concept from Center's style of play. They're scoring the same number of points that they're allowing, give or take a tenth, so we'll let you be the judge of that. But it's going to be a very fast battle if these two teams get off to the races, and we know that Lynchburg throughout the season has been able to just grow and control transition down the stretch.
Yeah, in tempo, I mean, Lynchburg very comfortable getting out quick, trying to get in transition and create baskets. Center, on the other hand, is nearly the complete opposite. 402nd in the country in adjusted tempo, and that's something that we're probably going to see all night, that battle of kind of just beliefs, going down the floor and trying to get up a quick shot or working the ball around, going down to the end of the shot clock. But something that really stands out for me there, I mean, obviously you mentioned Center averaging the same amount of points as they give up, very interesting. But field goal percentage for Lynchburg is up a little bit. They shot 42% from behind the arc in their last contest. That was an exhibition against D1 Davidson. And, I mean, obviously a game they lost by 35, but looked very comfortable playing under the big lights in a Division I stadium.
For sure, and we're going to move on to the keys to the game, but experience always helps at this time of the year, and we know that Lynchburg, with their performance against Davidson, yes, it's a loss, doesn't go on your schedule. You get to really move forward and see what you need to work on, and it's going to be a battle of styles today. Center needs to be sweet from the stripe. They're 7th in the nation for free throw makes per game, just about 19, but obviously you have to get to the line to do that, and then controlling the chaos. If this becomes a track race, you have to keep passing and not settling for those easy jumpers. While on the other side for the Hornets, very similar style. It's communicating on offense. Lots of different defensive looks for Center. They'll go into that zone, so you have to be prepared for the kitchen sink, as well as protecting the ball. They committed 19 turnovers versus Davidson. That was the difference maker. Shot the ball relatively well in that contest, 52% from the field, so you have to make sure that you are controlling the variables.
Exactly, and this gives us an opportunity to run through the starting lineups here. First for the visitors from Center: Ches Moore, Carter Boffman, Isaiah Villafuerte, Cade Stinnett, and Caleb Mall. And then on the other side, Evan, it's a lineup we're very familiar with.
Well, every single game this season has been the exact same look for Lynchburg. It's going to be DeAndre Ross, Jake Hart, Pearson Young, Cam O'Connor, who corrals the tip, and Jonathan Faust, who was the leading scorer against Davidson, and a very solid performance from down low as Faust comes down with it underneath the basket right away. A few scrambles, and Pearson Young will gather. See right away that 1-3-1 defense from Center. They're going to bring you out top. You have to get to the corner, as Pearson Young does and rattles it in.
Pearson Young has really been finding his footing from behind the arc this year. Started out not shooting it all too well, but in the last couple of contests, I think just seeing a lot more going from his team really helped him as well.
Well, we know that he is expected to do a lot on the court this year. He's known for his toughness, and what Coach Scott has seen out of his sophomore from Lynchburg has been a very positive development. Center trying to work the ball around. It's going to be a foul on the floor. It's called on number 1, Jake Hart.
Yeah, and I think you can see an early battle to what we're going to see all contests. Number 33, Caleb Mall for Center against number 21, Cam O'Connor for Lynchburg. 3-inch height advantage for Mall in the paint, but Cam O'Connor holding his place quite well in the early going.
Might be the reason that Center varied in their starting lineup from every game they've played this season. This is the first one that looks a little bit different, as Isaiah Villafuerte will send a 3 down on his own end. Pearson Young again for a 3, trying to be that corner killer. How about the point guard, Jake Hart, with the rebound? Cam O'Connor smooth to get it back in.
Lynchburg doing a good job to break down that little bit of a press that the 1-3-1 really presents you. Obviously, corner threes are going to be something that's very helpful for Lynchburg today, and if they're falling, it's going to be a very successful game.
Will be interesting to see the three shooters come off the bench for Lynchburg. We know that their depth allows them to have shooters down the lineup. It's going to be another quick foul on Jake Hart, and that is not a great sign for Coach Scott's team when you get your point guard with 2 fouls in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, but for Lynchburg, I think it's not necessarily a really tough situation. Obviously, you mentioned that depth just a few seconds ago. I mean, Jake Hart, obviously being that leader, being that point guard is a big kind of help for Lynchburg, but obviously when you can go 12 deep, 13 deep, and sometimes it's very important for Lynchburg to not really get ahead of themselves, kind of doubting themselves without a point guard.
Michael Gray, Hart's roommate, will replace him. He's going to take the ball up the court as the free throws go down for Carter Boffman. Once again, that zone defense. You're going to hear it like a broken record throughout this game. Lots of looks from center. They'll also go into some 2-3. They have the ability to have full court defense as well. Here is Dre Ross, a smooth operator, knocking it down, and Ross has been present all season long. So far on the season, over 10 points a game, and just continuing to develop in this system for Coach Scott. Here's a look on the perimeter. Villafuerte pass outside to Boffman. Lots of threes getting thrown up early. You can tell the style play that these two teams want to do. Pass the ball a lot, try to spread out that defense.
It will be interesting to see how Lynchburg kind of breaks down that shift from the two different types of zones. Obviously, 2-3, important to get that man in the high post and really create someone inside the zone that'll help. It was Jonathan Faust in that situation, and I think when you run that 2-3, that's really the key, to get touches in the high post and kick from there leads to open threes. Obviously, Pearson Young had an opportunity there, but that'll be one way that Lynchburg can try and break down this switch.
Well, Andy, that can be so difficult as well on offense, because we know for Coach Greg Mason's squad, hold that thought, Dre Ross, another three from the corner. We've seen it quite a bit to start. We'll keep things right here. So many different zone defensive looks for center, and as a coach and Hillary Scott for Lynchburg, you have to understand that every offense is going to be switching. You have to communicate. We know that that 2-3 high post isn't going to be available against the 1-3-1. So what do you think Lynchburg can do early on just to open up those looks?
I think a lot of it is just getting out in transition. Obviously, Lynchburg has built a lead playing against that half-court defense to this point. 6-point lead in the early going. Obviously, less than 3 minutes into this contest is kind of right where you want to be. Lynchburg finding those three-pointers and knocking them down quite well. I mean, they're really just building off of their three-point percentage in their last contest against Davidson. Obviously, a game that they didn't, come close to really winning, but obviously that was kind of expected. It was more of an experience game, but for Lynchburg, if the three-point ball is falling, and that really takes a lot of pressure off of trying to break down that 1-3-1 with a lot of passing. But, baselines are really the key to a 1-3-1. If you can get to the baseline, obviously that corner is the same idea, and they're finding it to this point. But, baseline and cutting from there is also a great point for Lynchburg to really attack that 1-3-1.
Good point. So much timing involved. And when you don't see a zone defense every game you play, you have to make sure you can adjust. Center. Downhill is Boffman, and that is a beautiful touch to get it down for two. Those are situations you get your guard downhill just trying to look for the rim, sometimes even off balance. We've seen that talent the last 10 or 20 years in college basketball really start to shift, having some guards that can be versatile. And talk about versatility, John Faust, another one of those guys who can get it done.
Yeah, Faust had an incredible game last time out against Davidson, including one of the, highlights of the season for Lynchburg, really throwing it down, doing just exactly what Boffman's doing there, getting downhill. But, really brought the house down in Belk Arena in Davidson, North Carolina. I was there, experienced it, and it didn't just get a roar from the Lynchburg bench. I think everyone in the arena was excited and just kind of on your feet for the moment. But Jonathan Faust, one of the most athletic players on the floor, very versatile as well.
Sometimes you don't see that every game as well, because you have so many players in and out. You don't get those game situations. But if you haven't seen the clip, look it up, because John Faust got up and threw it down. Boffman, another 2 free throws. We haven't talked about another one of center's guards at the top of this defense, Cade Stinnett. He's the guy sometimes you expect a lot of this action from, and he is also a reason that some of these other guards get more looks. Stinnett, the sophomore from Bowling Green. See lots of looks to him today. Michael Gray, another three. Make it 4 for Lynchburg in the early going.
Yeah, 4 for 6 here. I mean, about a dream start if you're head coach Hillary Scott in this moment. You obviously want to get easy looks in the lane against the zone sometimes, but if you're knocking down 3, it takes so much pressure off of that ball movement and off of your guards. So Lynchburg doing very well from behind the arc in the early going.
Up and under on the other side for Ches Moore, keeps it a 5-point ball game. Cam O'Connor from the 3 can't knock it down. You could call him the offensive coordinator for this squad. We talked with Coach Scott beginning of the year, and as a big man with D1 experience at Longwood, you understand that you can run an offense through him and really open up some other looks on the perimeter. Michael Gray in transition. Here is O'Connor. Trying to get past some contact. It's going to be a little too much on Boffman, and it will be the first foul at center.
Yeah, for Lynchburg, obviously you mentioned center getting to the line, top 10 getting to the line, making free throws in the entire country. So, I mean, for Lynchburg, you kind of want to do the other thing on the opposite end is you can put yourself at the line too, especially if you can get some of these guards in foul trouble for center in the early going. Obviously, Stinnett we mentioned, Boffman as well. I mean, that really puts a lot of pressure on the bench for center to really try and break down this Lynchburg defense.
Well, we mentioned the clip at which the Colonels are able to get to the line. They have 19 makes, but their free throw percentage on the season just 71.5%. So it's nothing special about how they stroke it from the stripe. It's just getting that opportunity and getting to the rim that really allows them to have that success. And so like you said, Lynchburg, it is so crucial to be able to get into the painted area and make a difference today. Shot's going to miss everything. Gray receives, and he's going to go the other way. Here's DeAndre Ross. Few passes around the perimeter. The southpaw Faust can't find the rim.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, but it's important for Lynchburg out in transition and not really settle for a shot like that. Obviously, if it falls, we're having a different conversation here as center turns it over. Good pressure from Dre Ross. But, I mean, you also bring in a couple three-point shooters right now. Jason Easton, Jordan Parham checking in for Lynchburg. But, I mean, you really want to work that shot clock, especially against a team like center who's so comfortable late in the shot clock. Obviously, in practice, if your offense is going to be someone that works that late, you really don't want to settle. You want to take your opportunities when you can have them in Lynchburg. Although they're shooting the 3-ball well, it's not really something you want to fall into the trap of shooting it every time down the floor.
Step too many for Michael Gray, and you brought up a really good point because the more that you work the shot clock throughout the game, that means you're not turning the ball over. You have to hold on to it for 30 seconds, and we know that Lynchburg trying to get past that. It's still a squad that is relatively new for Coach Scott. We know they had 8 new faces at the beginning of the year, and when you have a freshman point guard in Jake Hart, who has been an outstanding distributor, you're still trying to go through the ups and downs of finding this offense. Here's Stinnett going to go outside. That baseline guarded tightly from Gray. And it's going to be another 3 look for center. Count it. Landon Hamilton, the freshman from Hebron, Kentucky, knocks it down.
Yeah, and to just continue on that point, you know, an early shot in the shot clock is not exactly the easiest thing because for center who's literally trying to limit your possessions, they don't want to have you, you know, shoot the ball 70 times in a game. They want to limit you on the amount of shots you can take. You know, an early shot, long rebound is technically a turnover. It's not going to show up in the stat sheet, but it goes the same way.
Easton for 3, an easy look from beyond the perimeter. Lynchburg finding a lot of their offense from that 3-point shot. We know that when they are stroking it well, this is a team that is as dangerous as anyone in the ODAC. But it's a nice touch on the other end. Once again, Landon Hamilton. See the guards for the Colonels early on just continuing to have some new looks against this Lynchburg defense. Michael Gray, maybe a little bit of a heat check. Rebound gets loose. It's corralled by Hunter Coleman. 12:43 to play. Here's another 3. Back and forth we go. It's going to be a foul under the bucket, and Lynchburg will take possession. And that will bring us to our media timeout. So lots of action early on, lots of threes falling in Turner. It's 19-16 Lynchburg on the other side.
Think a private education is too expensive? Think again. At the University of Lynchburg, you can get a personalized education for the cost of a state school. If you're commuting and you get our top scholarships, you could pay much less. And you get all that without the hassle of giant lecture halls. Our faculty know your name here and do more than just teach. You might even do research together and plan out your next career moves.
Lynchburg searching for win number 6 of the 2023-2024 campaign. Evan Gates, Andy Watson on the Lynchburg Hornets Sports Network. And if Lynchburg can get the victory today and make it 6, that ties their total from last season, 6-19. Coach Scott certainly expecting some improvement as Mason Makovic keeps the scoring rolling down low.
Yeah, Lynchburg already picking up 3 conference wins. If you tune in to the first game of the Wayne Prophet Classic, that was one of Lynchburg's wins against that Randolph team that took down Marymount. That one was on the road. So, I mean, Lynchburg in a very good spot in the conference, but as we'll talk about at halftime, it's one that is about the deepest in the country.
Well, we know that teams from any part of the Commonwealth can come out and compete. Right now, Shenandoah in first, and as you said, we'll dive a little bit deeper into other scores, but they did get a victory against number 3 Guilford today, one of the premier teams in the nation. Parham, nice getting to his spot, just couldn't get the shot to fall. Here's center the other way. Shifty crossover, going downhill. Makovic had nice defense to stand straight up, and Michael Gray ran through right at midcourt. He's going to be caught for a travel. How about the trust on that play, just getting down for your team, Blake Stewart?
Yeah, it was most likely hearing the footsteps behind him, trying to avoid that contact, which led to that turnover. But, you know, positive for center to really step up in kind of transition and slow down the Hornets. That's exactly what they want to do.
Those can be cheap fouls if you're getting them caught away from the basket, but we do know that the Colonels have a good feel for the game, as does Isaiah Villafuerte. Stop and pop. So a 3-point ball game. Lynchburg feels like they have had sole possession of this game so far. The threes are falling, continuing to get good shots, but center still creeping right behind. Here's going to be another shot in the corner for Jason Easton. He just doesn't miss.
Lynchburg finding their spots in the corners. A little bit slow there to switch from the 1-3-1 to the 2-3 by the Colonels, and that led to an open opportunity. Easton already up to 6 points in the contest.
Both on those threes that he just seems so comfortable shooting. The sophomore from Buchanan, and this season he's struggled. He's shot just 30% from beyond the perimeter, so today may be a good game to get that shot going. There's a long one off the mark, so center will corral. Boffman still up front. We see center's offense, lots of rotation. They'll try to look for the corners as well. We haven't seen that as much in today's contest. Foul going to be called on center. That's their 3rd team foul. Aggression still relatively mild in this contest, and Andy, if you watch the last game, you understand that is a pretty big contrast from what we saw in that second half. Just lots of action going at it, and that's the beauty of college basketball. You have those games, coaches get into it a little bit, benches ready to go, and really produced a good climax.
Yeah, in that contest, it was back and forth almost the entire way. But, I mean, Lynchburg trying to really grab control of this contest. They can do it with a couple of good offensive possessions here.
Makovic got his shot stuffed. Back out to JP. Takes a dribble. Floater won't go. Front iron. And center can move the other way. Villafuerte. Very good with the ball out front. We've seen a couple times him getting past for the bucket, as that's going to be Ches Moore fouled on the shot. He'll go to the line for 2, and it's called on Makovic.
Yeah, Makovic has done a good job on both sides of the court to this point. Obviously, playing that center role on the offensive side is a little bit more difficult against this center team, especially because you're not getting as many touches there in and around the blocks. But, I mean, when you do, you have opportunities to not only pick up points, but I think the best part about being a 5 or a 4 in playing against a zone is the fact that you might reach your assist career high. I mean, because kicking to corners, kicking to wings is going to be open.
Well, we know that some offenses in college basketball don't allow that much passing from the center spot, but we do know that what Makovic and guys like Miles Taylor can do, as he lofts that one over, it's going to be center basketball. But when you get those passes down low, it can open up the guards around the perimeter, and then you even have that drive and dish action that we've seen from Lynchburg. Villafuerte will cross the timeline. Center still down 6, but looking comfortable with their passing. So many different defensive lineups for Lynchburg that you're going to see throughout the year, as this is going to be a carry in the Hornets basketball. But right now, a couple new additions on the floor. Landon Sutton, who can occupy that point guard position. Haven't seen him as much this season in terms of that point guard responsibility. We know that Jake Hart occupies lots of that time on the floor, but you also have guys like Alex Fitch, his counterpart in blue shoes today, and they can really get hot from the perimeter. Sutton and Parham playing catch. It's going to go over to Taylor. Still looking against this 2-3 defense, trying to find the open man. Here is the high post. Parham, all the time in the world, and he strokes it home.
Perfect job there from Lynchburg to find that high post, and Alex Fitch didn't really care where the basket was. He knew that there was a defender on his back, just looking for the open pass. His center tried to collapse into that high post. Another 3 for Lynchburg. Jordan Parham gets his scoring started.
He was open as you and I up in the booth. Center still looking. Here's Villafuerte going to take a couple dribbles. Nice work from Sutton to stay in front. And it's going to be called a blocking foul. That one can go either way. Sometimes it's a trip, sometimes it's going on the defender. This time Sutton a little too rough.
Yeah, tough call there for Sutton, fighting over top of that screen. A really good job to stay on the hip of Villafuerte, and I think that's maybe where that foul came from. Obviously, a trip I'd like to see maybe a little bit more behind the defender. Landon Sutton was in pretty good defending space, but obviously Villafuerte hit the deck, and first foul for Landon Sutton.
So center trying to revitalize this offense. It's a squad under Coach Greg Mason that has historically been very good. They've only played Lynchburg once. That was a long time ago, back in 2000, as center got the victory. But we do know, or excuse me, it was the last meeting very recently, but they won by 30-plus points. We know that it's a very different squad, and for Coach Mason, last 3 years, he has had a record that is not a winning one. But before that, we have seen lots of seasons where they have been dominant, as Villafuerte once again put a little English on it.
Yeah, before this game, I think you and I were talking about, where is this offense from center really going to come from? And, obviously maybe a down year for him, but there's still those flashes of just incredible basketball. A lot of one-on-one action, and Villafuerte is taking advantage of that.
Makovic got to the rim. He's going to get to the line for 2. Coach Mason, dominant as a guard at center, scored over 1,000 points. He had 7 school records at the time of his graduation, and just as successful as a coach. 8 NCAA appearances, 7 conference titles, and 2-time South Region Coach of the Year. So you expect the little things like these defensive techniques. You talk about zone defense. You can't just have anyone at the helm of that. So many different moves you have to be ready for. And the Colonels still ready to respond at any moment. Makovic's second shot will go straight in as Pearson Young and Cameron O'Connor back in the ball game. Just over 7 minutes to play. And from a Lynchburg standpoint so far, obviously shooting has been strong. Pearson Young wanted to get the turnover there, but also doing well defensively, holding center primarily to that three-point shooting. We've seen a few plays where they've gotten into that mid-range. Sutton keeps his run rolling and straight off the glass.
Yeah, they've done it with the three-pointer, and right there they show a perfect image of how to break down a zone, especially in transition before they even get it set up. Landon Sutton, a great move, a great drive, and he's in the scoring sheet now.
Ball goes out of bounds, and another timeout, as it will be immediate timeout. So we will take another break, but a 10-point lead for Lynchburg. They're feeling comfortable in day one of the Wayne Prophet Coaches Classic.
Want to have some outdoor adventures while getting a degree at the same time? At the University of Lynchburg, we have an on-campus zip line and road course. Plus, we offer adventure trips that cost less than a cup of coffee. And did I mention our beautiful scenery? We're a university for students looking for something more than just books. Welcome to your new adventure experience.
Welcome back in Turner Gymnasium. Just a quick turnaround after tonight's game. We know that the tournament is a two-day affair, as Center tomorrow will go on to face Randolph while Lynchburg takes on Marymount. That last game came down to the final possessions as Randolph was able to steal the victory, so you know that if you're a Hornets fan, you have to expect the best basketball out of Marymount tomorrow. Will also be a tournament down in St. Petersburg after Christmas, so tomorrow the final game before a little break, where Lynchburg will face Spalding and Mount St. Mary's. So travel on the Hornets' end, it's going to be Center basketball. Lynchburg 3-1 in ODAC play. We know this is a non-conference matchup, but when January hits, you know conference play is going to resume, and still so many teams out there that are finding their identities, especially when this conference is not just top heavy. Lots of middle teams that can come out swinging. Tight defense. Center still trying to find options. Shot clock at 3. They're going to have to get a shot off. It's going to be a quick one over O'Connor, and a nice stroke from Noah Ring.
Obviously, as we mentioned in the start of this contest, I mean, Center's very comfortable playing late in the shot clock, and if you can limit possessions and you can play like that, the Colonels are really going to find their way back into this contest, especially with this switching of the zone on the defensive end. It's really giving Lynchburg some troubles as they cycle in some new guys.
Lynchburg, a team as well that is not known for its height. Neither is Center. This is a game that's primarily composed of guard play, lots of swinging on the offensive end, but to get it over O'Connor is still not an easy task. Sutton, the pass to the high post. Young's gonna kick it out to Fitch, and he's having a little bit of fun, and he gets another 3 to go. Make it 8 on the day for Lynchburg.
Lynchburg finding their feet behind the arc. I mean, it was just really rolling over from that Davidson game. Shooting 42% from behind the arc then. They're shooting over 50% right now. I think watching Davidson knock some down, watching Center knock some down has really kind of forced them to knock some down as well.
Pearson Young didn't like the call. He thought he had a clean strip. Maybe a little bit of speed the other way, but will be called, and Hornets now 6 team fouls, so center will be in the bonus on the next one. 4:49 to play in the opening half. Here's Moore outside. Gonna try to isolate against O'Connor. Gets to a spot. Referee's gonna wave it off. It's a travel. We've seen it quite a few times on center's end today. Lots of turnovers. And some of those unforced errors, it's so difficult to try and get momentum when you have the ball going the other way. Maybe something that Coach Mason will emphasize at the half. Young trying to get to the rack, throws it up, no good. And somehow finds a way to get it back. Fitch trying to laser one in, and here's the turnover. And both ways, ball was going out of bounds. The referee's gonna call the foul on Fitch. Lots to unpack on that possession. Marshall Taylor was going after the ball and probably didn't have a chance to get it, but Fitch will be called for the foul, and here's that 1-and-1.
Yeah, Fitch kind of just in the wrong place at the wrong time there. Looked like center trying to get out in transition, trying to get an easy bucket to climb back into this game, and Fitch just kind of caught standing flat-footed, put out basically a clothesline there, earning himself the foul.
Well, no argument from Coach Scott and the bench, so you have to think that that call seems just about right. Landon Sutton couldn't get it off the glass. Lots of communication. Lynchburg up 11. Here's a sweet stroke from out top at the three-point line. It's going to be possessed by Moore, who goes back up for the second chance opportunity.
Moore doing a good job of taking advantage of that height that he has, especially with Pearson Young on the deck, just going right back up. Easy, but the other side foul called.
Moore will stay in the ball game. Just his first foul of the half. Some new looks from Lynchburg. Gillenwater, Hart, and Ross will all come into the ball game, joined by Faust and O'Connor. So many new lineups with Lynchburg. You can never get too familiar with one look, and maybe that's why opposing coaches don't necessarily love coming to Turner Gymnasium against Coach Scott's squad that is still finding ways to get it done. Faust went up. It's a blocking foul. Must have been inside the circle, as Faust will go to the line for an and-one.
Yeah, great move there from Faust to get to the block and then really to fight through that contact. It wasn't too difficult as the defender was hitting the floor, so just about going up, maintaining your head and laying it in off the glass. But a great move, Lynchburg up 11, Faust an opportunity to make it 12.
He knew his spot and he made it happen and adds the extra one. Hart fell after that free throw, holding his finger a little bit. Might have to roll through some of the jams here and there. Freshman campaign, you could say that about a game. You could say that about a season. We know that Jake Hart has been sensational. Really a pass-first point guard, trying to find his teammates and averaging over 3 assists per game. Leads the team in that category. Gillenwater went up for three, no good. Foul, second chance opportunity. He is everywhere in the paint, and Coach Mason wants to talk it over. Lynchburg is feeling themselves now up 14 in the first half. And we will take a quick break. And on the other side, Lynchburg feeling good.
Living the dream. USA, Mexico. That was so exciting.
Both squads knotted up at 4 turnovers. Scoreboard a little bit different as Lynchburg in sole possession of this ball game, up 14. Lynchburg in wins averaging 11 turnovers and losses 18. They had 19 against Davidson, so fits the bill. We know that the Hornets in ODAC play will have to improve on that end of the basketball. We know that there's lots of quick offense, so in transition opportunities, you're going to have a few more turnovers, but they don't lie when you're trying to get that W. How about Jonathan Faust? Just again and again, a broken record down low.
Yeah, feeding off of his performance against Davidson, really bringing that to the floor today. Lynchburg up to their largest lead of the night. They're up 16 now, just about 2 minutes to go here in the first half.
I think a game like this is so much about comfort as well, knowing that you can get to that spot, watching the ball go in. We mentioned it with Pearson Young earlier, but Faust now with 9 points, and he has lots of those post opportunities. We see Lynchburg in this 4-out offense that opens up that paint. If he can find the spot, sitting at the high post here is Faust. He's going to take the jumper from the free throw line and corralled on the other end by Maul. Still tight defense. Danette, we haven't seen a lot from him so far from a scoring standpoint. Nice pass down low and the flush for Caleb Maul.
Caleb Maul getting up there, throwing it down, maybe trying to grab a little bit of the momentum. 90 seconds to go here in the first half. It would go a long way to help the Colonels work their way back in.
Hart, how about the second pass back to O'Connor? Sometimes it's the great passes of the game that it just feels like a shooter is never going to miss those chances. And O'Connor, as open as you're going to get, playing that role of the corner killer. Now up 17 is Lynchburg. And entering the final minute of play, just trying to hold that momentum. Ross, the closeout. It's going to be a nice little step back from Marshall Taylor, but he couldn't find anything. Dre Ross somehow tried to get it off Taylor's leg, but looks like Ross stepped out first. Gotta like the hustle from both squads so far. We have seen lots of transition as we expected. Also some opportunities for center where they have gotten to their spots late on the shot clock. It's a Lynchburg squad shooting right now 52% from three, just 9 of 17. So certainly finding their looks. When you have over half of your points coming from beyond the arc as well, you know that that's a style of play that you have to utilize, but also got to make sure you don't go cold. Villafuerte, he has had a day so far, 10 points and perfect from shooting.
Yeah, and for center, it's all about just taking your easy looks where you can get them. Obviously, if you can get an open three with someone like Villafuerte, you take it. Head coach Hillary Scott feeling that maybe a miss here could bring some momentum for the Colonels, calls a timeout. And they're going to draw something up. They hopefully get a late basket here. Obviously up 14 points, you feel very comfortable. But, you know, with a player like Villafuerte and a couple of guys on this Colonels side who can shoot the three ball oh so well, they're only 3 for 9 right now. I mean, Lynchburg has 9 3-pointers. Center has 11 baskets. So, I mean, it's pretty close in that area. And I think for Lynchburg, you're comfortable, but you know just how quickly it could switch if center starts hitting and that zone starts to work, because offense does lead to defense, and it also works the other way around.
Lynchburg out-rebounding center 17-11, but that's most likely product to some of the makes they're getting. And like you said, when the rest of the stat sheet is pretty even, then you have to make sure you're covering the rest of your bases if you go cold in that second half. We saw with women's basketball a few times this season. They had a contest against Bridgewater where held the lead pretty much until the final 5 minutes of that fourth quarter and just fell apart. Laps of shooting, but also got to maintain your focus. As we go with 11 seconds left, Lynchburg in those now home uniforms, the grays that were debuted this year. Maybe they could have a little bit of fashion to end this first half. Yeah, get something on the scoreboard.
If you're center, I think you got to be comfortable coming out in that 1-3-1, trying to get that trap away from the basket, because the quicker you can get them into their offensive set, the better. We'll see what Lynchburg has drawn up.
Center will hold man on this possession. Hart tries to get to the rim. Pass down to Faust. The look was there, just not the execution. 2 seconds. O'Connor, he's going to beat the buzzer, and Lynchburg is propelling themselves to a strong lead going into the locker room. Now 17 points and just 4 ticks shy of 50. How about a look to close out the first half for Coach Scott's squad? As we go into halftime, we'll have more stats and analysis on the other side, but the Hornets humming in Turner Gymnasium.
Tim Slusser from the Outdoor Leadership Program gave a presentation at a Teaching and Learning Resources Conference here about getting his program more involved on the academic side of campus. I mentioned computers and mapping, and he mentioned caving, and eventually we came up with the idea of mapping caves.
So the week before we were able to learn how to use the instruments kind of like on a flat surface and just kind of get a hang of how they work. But it was really amazing how once we got in the cave, it was a completely different experience using them.
It was unique. It got most of us out of our comfort zone, kind of gave us a new experience, a new taste of something new. But I think the most difficult parts were getting the lighting right. You had to read the instruments with the headlamps while keeping your eye pointed on the plot point.
This allowed them to actually literally get their hands dirty, collecting data, conducting measurements, and putting all that together in the form of a map, and doing it in a place that's never been mapped before.
Here's to life and here's to Lynchburg, to the years we spent together. I don't know when or how we gathered, but I know I'm home. So here's to love and here's to the heartache, all the laughter, every mistake. I don't know how our lives will be changed, but here I am home. Here I'm home.
The biggest thing that I've taken from Westover is probably my interactions with faculty. I started working with Dr. Fryer. He's always available for help, and he makes sure that I get to do the experiments and not just be there while he does them. I didn't want to limit myself when I came here to just taking the prereqs for med school. I wanted to get a full, well-rounded education, and I definitely found that in the Westover program. It's given me the opportunity to keep playing soccer at a competitive level, but also it's given me the ability to be a student and to pursue other activities such as EMS. "100% do Westover because it's not something they're going to regret, and it's going to be a lot of work, but so is everything else. It's just going to help build their education that they've already had and make them a better person for it."
When you come to the University of Lynchburg to earn a master's degree in athletic training, you'll spend time in the classroom, but you'll also spend a lot of time in our top-notch facilities learning from athletic trainers and working closely with our student athletes. In the Graduate Cadaver Lab, you'll learn about the human body in the best way possible, by actually studying the human body. This will provide a foundation to make you a much better athletic trainer. In the Athletic Training Laboratory, you'll get hands-on experience, practicing your skills, applying concepts from the classroom, and working with faculty on research projects. It's also where our hydrotherapy facilities are. This space is also used by students for studying and practicing skills outside of class time. In the Sports Medicine Clinic and Turner Gymnasium, you'll work with student athletes from more than 20 NCAA Division III sports teams, helping get them back to practice and into the game as soon as possible. As an athletic training student, you're a big part of the success of our sports teams and the success of the local athletic teams. We see this relationship as a win-win situation. You learn, and that helps us win.
I was looking for a school that could provide me with the athletics, academics to pursue my career, a wind symphony to pursue my passion for music, and really have a nice general atmosphere. The professors here are really unique, their background and their passion for teaching. It's really a place where you can explore. Lynchburg gives you the opportunity to fail, but also get back up in that period of time and learn from your mistakes. I can make these mistakes within the school environment, but also with the support of other friends, and be ready for the real world when you graduate.
Welcome back inside Turner Gymnasium. It's getting pretty chilly in the Commonwealth the last few weeks. We know Christmas slowly approaching, but it has been red hot for this Lynchburg offense, leading 46-29, and three-point percentage so far, the stat to look at, shooting 55%. They have been sensational, 10 of 18, so 30 of those points from beyond the perimeter, and Center still hasn't played bad from an offensive standpoint. They've gotten their looks, but just not able to keep up, and we know that Lynchburg is still continuing to play some pretty tight defense on their end. They've forced 4 turnovers on Center, who has forced 5 on Lynchburg, so most of the statistical battle is pretty even. But Andy, what do you think the difference maker outside of that three-point shot has been in that first half?
I mean, yeah, the three-point shot is a really big key, but I think Center is kind of rushing a couple shots here and there. They know they're kind of falling apart, at least in terms of, like, you know, on the defensive end, Lynchburg is not necessarily breaking down the zone. I mean, the one thing that you do if you're running a zone is to kind of, you know, slow things down, force tough shots, have a hand in somebody's face at almost all times. But Lynchburg has found, I mean, maybe 1 or 2 of those three-point attempts have been contested. I think Lynchburg is just very comfortable knocking down what feels like a practice jump shot with not many people within 5 feet of you. I mean, it's all because of the defensive end for Center. I think Lynchburg has really figured out that, you know, 1-3-1 is one thing, but then when you switch to the 2-3 in the middle of a possession, if that disconnect is there between players for Center, I think that's where the mistakes have really come in for the Colonels.
Well, all boils down to coaching. It seems like Lynchburg is starting to crack the code. They have yet to trail in this contest, so continuing to keep a chokehold on the scoreboard. We're going to take another quick break, but on the other side, we've got 20 more minutes of basketball to round out day 1 of the Wayne Prophet Classic right here in the Hill City.
Today's a rough day. Jess and I are officially on a break. The couple canoe has broken up.
It's not.
How you feeling?
Living the dream.
Just canoeing. That's the Mexican side behind me. The U.S. is that way.
So
so far we're all still alive.
I really want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Woo! We did it! Kind of.
My name is Alexis Fabula. I major in criminology and I double minor in psychology and criminal forensics. My favorite part about Lynchburg is the friends that I've come to have. It's helped me come out of my shell more, and it's helped me become the person I am and the student I am. I really enjoyed how small the campus was, and I also really enjoy how small the class sizes are. It made me feel like I was going to be more engaged than I would at a bigger campus. If someone was on the fence of coming to the University of Lynchburg, I would definitely love to sit down and have a conversation with them because I'm forever grateful that I made this choice. It's definitely something that a student wouldn't regret. Out of my 4 years here, I've not had one bad experience. I've had a great 4 years, and I'm going to be very sad to go.
When creating a sustainable future, your choices matter, even your choice of a college. The University of Lynchburg is the first college in Virginia to go carbon neutral. Our dining hall is Green Restaurant certified. We compost all of our food waste and purchase our electricity from landfill gas. Now we're turning a hazardous lake into a thriving urban wetland. When you choose Lynchburg, you leave a smaller footprint while building a better tomorrow.
Look what you're missing!
It really don't matter to me, I'm just happy to be here, I might go crazy.
Welcome back inside Turner Gymnasium. Here's a stat, Andy, you want to talk about it as we enter the final 20 minutes. Every game this season for Lynchburg, essentially the victory has been decided at the half. If Lynchburg is up and winning, then they go on to win ball games. If they're losing, they come out with the L. So things looking pretty optimistic on the scoreboard.
Yeah, and especially in this Wayne Prophet Classic. I mean, you talk about such a great player for the University of Lynchburg, back then Lynchburg College. And I'm not sure if you have been, I know you probably have, but on Lynchburg Sports Instagram, those throwback uniforms, the LC on the shorts, pretty incredible. But tell us a little bit about Wayne Profit.
Well, 249 coaching victories. Right now, Coach Scott is at 215, but the 249 for Coach Profit, it is the most in school history, and just fantastic as a player and a coach at Lynchburg, as right away center bringing it to the dish, and a nice look for a potential and one from Caleb Mall. But Wayne Profit, obviously this classic comes back for the first time since 2019, and an All-American selection as a player, graduated in 1967. He played in Lynchburg's Memorial Gymnasium before Turner was a thing, and so obviously lots of history in Lynchburg hoops, and very special just to be able to honor that with an event like this.
Yeah, especially for the first time since 2019. It's always nice when it comes back, and especially when you can get some great competition here into Turner Gymnasium and Wayne Profit Court. I think, you know, Randolph making the trip across the Hill City, Marymount and Center making their respective ways to Lynchburg. I mean, it's such an exciting 2 days of basketball.
Well, we know, obviously, those two squads from different parts of the country don't see them as much. Sometimes Marymount stays on that non-conference schedule, but Center, a squad that likes to recruit from those pipeline states, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, huge emphasis on staying local, and not often here in Virginia that you get competition from Kentucky, so pretty interesting to see the Colonels making the trip to the Hill City, as Ross just tried to flash that one out. Faust all alone down low, and a couple bounces, it will fall out.
But a good look there for Faust. I mean, it was kind of Groundhog Day to start the second half here, down inside Caleb Mall, creating space, earning a foul on that opportunity. But, I mean, Center's getting the ball back into the paint where they did for the first couple minutes of the first half when they stayed competitive with Lynchburg, and once they started to shoot those perimeter jumpers, they kind of fell off just a little bit. But obviously Center, point of emphasis is get that ball under the basket and get easy opportunities.
And that's how you get to the free throw line. Just 5 of 8 on the day. We know they average 19 makes a contest, and so still a long ways to go for that stat category, but obviously they slow the game down. They play their tempo. That's how sometimes you can get away from this Lynchburg transition. And right now, Ches Moore trying to bite into that lead that is now just 12 for the Hornets.
Yeah, and especially if you can get to the free throw line, you feel a lot comfortable. You're able to get points without time running off the clock. For Lynchburg, it would be very important to stay out of the fouls here, especially in the early part of this second half.
Going to be so important to try and get momentum. Right now, this is Center's first game in 2 weeks since December 5th, and they still have 4 of their 6 December contests to be played, and if you include this one, as O'Connor gets a nice looking 3 from beyond the arc. We'll keep it here during the timeout. Little jazz afterwards from the grad transfer, but we know that December and Christmas break, as we touched on some of the women's broadcasts, it can be so difficult just to try and get your squad ready to compete after Christmas. You get about a week to go home, enjoy the festivities, but when you come back, that part of the schedule can be so crucial. And with ODAC play looming for Lynchburg, Andy, we know that the Hornets have to be ready to come out and fire.
Yeah, and it's honestly a really tough time over break as well, because usually Turner Gymnasium is one of those environments that, you know, if you don't go here, you play on the other teams that come and play here, you're very kind of, you know, nervous about what the fan base, what the students are going to bring you, especially in a gym like this where it does get pretty loud. I mean, it got pretty loud during free throws for the first time in the 3-4 years that I've been watching basketball in this gym this year. So things are really changing, things are heating up, and for, you know, a Lynchburg team who really thrives under that energy when, you know, the men's lacrosse team is out there cheering them on, when the baseball team is cheering them on. I think that energy is what kind of lifts this Hornets side up, and without everyone in the gym, especially, I mean, not to the same extent, obviously, there's fans, students still here watching, but I think it's a little bit more difficult for Lynchburg, especially coming off of a break where, you know, there weren't many students here, and even if they played a game during finals week, it was going to be tough to really get any students into the gym. And for Center, I mean, not playing for almost 2 weeks, I mean, maybe that first half was just a little bit of kind of shaking the rust off, and they're going to pick it up here in half number 2. So head coach Hillary Scott's got some things to worry about for this Colonel side.
Lynchburg certainly still has their hands full. You talked about gyms getting loud. Was definitely loud in that first contest where Randolph ran away with the victory versus Marymount. We promised that we would touch on this a little bit later. Some interesting events in the D3 world as Guilford has their first loss on their schedule. Shenandoah went at home to get the victory 65-58. And as well, another ODAC team in the news, Hampton-Sydney, came away with a 20-point victory versus John Carroll, who's at the top of those, the top of those Division III standings. So we know that Gems are going to stay loud for a very long time to come.
I mean, the Old Dominion Athletic Conference, if you're a Colonel fan and don't know too much about it, it's about as deep as it's ever been. Obviously, you know, Randolph-Macon winning a couple of national championships elevates it a little bit. But, you know, Virginia Wesleyan, always good. Guilford, always good on the defensive side. They're now the #3 team in the country. Shenandoah last year wasn't exactly where they wanted to be. They're clearly here to stay. Lynchburg, I mean, we talk about them. If they win this one, they get 6 wins on the year. They improve to even where they were last year in terms of wins. I mean, it's going to be a very difficult uphill battle for this Lynchburg side. And even, you know, teams that are in the upper echelon of the conference where Lynchburg wants to thrive, I mean, it's going to be a very interesting kind of beat your way through conference play.
Well, we know that this conference always poses challenges, and Lynchburg right now sitting 6th. That is still extremely early to start looking at those conference standings, but when you have Shenandoah, who is sitting at the top of the conference, comes in, knocks off the #3 squad in the nation, you just recognize that anybody can be anybody on a good day in the ODAC. It's back to the affair we have on the court. Here is Cade Stinnett. We talked about him earlier. Lots of talent for the center squad. He picks his spot. And on the other end, Lynchburg in transition. Pearson Young with a quick answer.
We wondered over halftime whether Lynchburg would ride the hot hand of that three-point shooting. They've come out, and they're still perfect here in the second half. I mean, very comfortable for this Lynchburg side, especially behind the arc, pushing up to 12 three-pointers now.
Just seems like any shot they can get, they're going to make sure that they capitalize on the big ones. The other end, here is Moore trying to get to the rim. Great defense from Lynchburg straight up. And now off to the races. Corner as Young trying to get out. A beautiful pass from Ross to Faust. Laser focus. And the connection from 2 to 14 looking sharp today.
Jonathan Faust up to 12 points. And, you know, one thing I want to talk about specifically is you mentioned Stinnett earlier about how good he is for this center side. He's averaging 19.5 points per game coming in here. He's got 4 right now, and a lot of that is to do because of Pearson Young's one-on-one defending. He's doing a great job of locking down that star player for the Colonels.
Well, you recognize with teams that come into Turner Gymnasium, Pearson Young has had some very difficult competitors this season. Talk about Greg Rowson for Mary Washington on the road, an All-American selection beginning of the season. These guys are the ones that Coach Scott wants Young on because he understands his toughness. He knows even though he's a sophomore, he has such a great feel for the game, and it's some of that stuff that you just can't coach that Young brings to the table. And I think if you have good defense from him, it really extends into your bench.
Yeah, and Lynchburg, I mean, the games that they play really well in are the ones where it all starts on the defensive end. The defensive energy is really where this team, I feel like, builds everything off of. You make a couple threes. We've made 12 in this game, and obviously the energy is buzzing from that bench. But it's nowhere near to where it goes when, you know, you get a couple blocks, get a couple turnovers, and go the other way. I think that's just where this Lynchburg team really thrives, is on the defensive end.
Always, the game of basketball is so interesting because it's not always those three-pointers, not always the highlight dunks that get the people going. Lots of these quote-unquote smaller plays that can really add up and become the foundation of your defense. Villafuerte, no. And here comes Ross in transition. Silky smooth to hold his dribble, and here's the ISO. Dishes out to Young. He had all the time in the world. And a finger in the air to Ross. They just keep flowing.
Lynchburg a perfect 3 for 3 here to start the second half from behind the arc. And they're going to earn themselves the ball back on a turnover.
Lynchburg's bench loving it. You have the woo drill, that 3 consecutive stops, and now up 20. Just seems like everyone is on that same wavelength. As Jake Hart back at point, trying to get things going. We've seen the ball in the hands of Dre Ross a lot to start this second half. Someone else who is usually comfortable with it. they always keep us on our toes as announcers, as that time it skips away. Referees will say the Hornets still have possession.
Yeah, an interesting one there. Got a couple groans from that away bench. The near side referee initially called it to be in the hands of the Colonels until the one on the far side in front of the scorers table actually said it was tipped, which got a couple of groans from that Colonel bench.
Downhill to the bucket, swatted away. Beautiful block on the other end from Banks, and now center trying to capitalize. Here is Jackson Banks, one-on-one with Cam O'Connor. He's gonna swing it outside to Boffman. That high screen you typically see from this center offense that allows them to get those open shots. Just haven't seen a lot of them. They don't shoot the three ball entirely a lot from the other side, but they are comfortable to take it, as O'Connor will find the rebound. Offense can reset. Fouls to Young. Still searching as O'Connor is up front. Here is Ross. Almost lost it again. And extra pass to Hart. He was open, but can't connect.
Yeah, great ball movement there from Lynchburg, but even better defense from center. I mean, obviously it resulted in an open look. Hart not able to capitalize, but anytime you can play good defense for 30 straight seconds, very impressive from the away team.
8 offensive rebounds on the day for Lynchburg. They've gotten lots of those second chance opportunities. Little separation from Faust, and Noah Ring gets the gimme. That lead stays at 18. Lynchburg still feeling pretty confident about things in Turner, but long ways to go as Young had it swatted away by Banks. It's going to be off of Pearson, and center will take possession. Miles Taylor and Jason Easton will check into the ball game.
We mentioned for Lynchburg kind of the energy coming from the defensive end, and it seems to be the same thing right now for center. Although they're down 18 points in this one, it's going to have to start on the offensive end. But I mean, you know, they're really feeling themselves trying to stop this Lynchburg team. I mean, you put up 58 points to this point in the contest. Anytime you can get a couple stops in a row, I mean, it's always a positive thing, even if you're down 18.
Well, center hasn't lost a game this season by more than 10, so yes, it was a little bit of a different first half, but you understand that you've been tight ball games so far this season. You just have to continue chipping away, and this offense, when it's functioning at a high level, can be potent. Great defense from O'Connor. He got straight up, and no chance for the Colonels on the offensive end, and Easton a step. Couldn't get the three. There's a foul on the floor. It looks like it's going to be called on Noah Ring.
Yeah, Ring just grabbing on O'Connor there, trying to get that long rebound. I mean, neither of them had any opportunity really to bring that one down, but Ring will be called with that one as O'Connor was trying to take it away from him.
That's the type of foul that will keep coaches up at night. You hate when you're in that transition opportunity, you get the stop, and then there's just a little bit of a cheap call on the other end. And now Lynchburg, another chance to reset. Ross downhill to the basket, just couldn't get it through. Maybe the best 1-2 step you'll see, arguably, in the ODAC. He is so quick with his dribble. Villafuerte still trying to get into the lane, off the glass a little too heavy. Isaiah Villafuerte just 5'10" as a guard, and how about the steal on the other end, proving that height isn't always a factor, can still find ways to make contributions, and the speed he has had at that guard position, certainly lethal. Ross took one too many steps. Center will take possession. 12:31 to play. Back and forth we go in Turner Gymnasium, still past that feeling each other out phase now. It's just about execution, and center still trying to dip into that lead. Somehow the pass got off. Banks was on the ground, and down low, it is a crystal clear finish for Ring.
Yeah, Ring, a great job to go up on that pump fake, get the defender up in the air. Not much Taylor could do in that situation. Ring brings his team back within 16.
O'Connor, the reversal to Michael Gray. Still getting Lots of those isolation looks as Miles Taylor had Banks all over him. He'll travel to the free throw line. Taylor, so far in this contest, he hasn't scored, and he was on such a streak before this ball game. We know that minus that Davidson game, I believe it was 5 of 6 games in double figures. It just seemed like every time that he could get his handprint on the game, his IQ really allowed him to find the score sheet.
Yeah, and today it's really been the story of the guards on the floor for Lynchburg. Obviously knocking down a couple of threes. Cam O'Connor doing a really good job playing kind of as that perimeter guy as well as being that size inside for the Hornets. So, I mean, Miles Taylor really hasn't played a bad game. It's just all of the opportunities for him. Get inside, kick it outside, and give other people looks from behind the arc, and it's been working out for Lynchburg.
He can really play every possession on the floor. See, this year, some of that specialization within the roles of this offense. You see Coach Scott trying to get guys in similar spots each game, not switching it up too much, but still having those abilities to do a little bit of everything on the floor. Villafuerte trying to keep the offense going. Center, that high screen that we've seen. Lynchburg playing extremely tight on the perimeter. It's the dish out to the corner for 3, knock it down. Hunter Coleman, the sophomore from Lebanon Junction, Kentucky, will get it to a 15-point ball game. Here's that high post. Taylor had a little more time than he anticipated, knocks down the easy jumper.
And you see just how easy it is for Taylor in that spot. I mean, if that guy under the paint doesn't really step out in that 2-3 zone, there's a lot of space for Taylor to put that one up. And Faust tried to do it a couple times earlier, converted on a couple. I mean, that's where Lynchburg is taking advantage, either putting that shot up or driving and kicking.
Sometimes got to find your feet as well, make sure that you're set. Taylor, pass out to Gray from the corner. Believe it, number 30, the gray uniform, and Gray on the stat sheet. Still making it a smooth lead for Lynchburg, back up to 20. That corner has proved to be a problem for the Colonels today. Pass down low, cross court. Villafuerte still trying to find space into the lane. Now it's the other corner for center. And once again, Hunter Coleman may be heating up. Saw this in some of the first game of the Wayne Prophet Classic. Lots of threes being traded back and forth. Who wants to break the spell? Easton this time. I'm running out of words, Andy.
I mean, it's very consistent for Lynchburg, a team that last year we talked about, you know, maybe not settling for the threes because they're not falling, but in this one, 15 three-pointers already in the bottom of the net. I mean, that is an incredible mark for the Hornets, and I mean, there's still 10 minutes left in this game. They're going to be improving and improving on that moment.
On pace for 20, that's 60 points via the three-pointer. So something that can really win you any ball game. We know that Lynchburg has some other tools in the box as well. Substitution will be Carter Boffman returning to the contest. He is the inbounder. They get it in isolation for number 33. Can't connect. Caleb Mall over Makovic. Now Michael Gray tried to go behind the back, just a little too forced, and now center the other way. Here he is again, Hunter Coleman. His hands are hot. If you're center right now, you just have to keep getting the sophomore the ball, because anytime he's touching it, just finding separation and also finding the net.
Yeah, Lynchburg did a good job of stepping out, of putting a hand in his face for the most part. Just, I mean, great defense and even better shot. And maybe he'll be that focal point for center in these last 9 minutes to maybe try and climb their way back into the contest.
This time, Boffman had the pass to Stewart. Touch off the glass too heavy. It does go off Lynchburg, so center will stay right here. Ches Moore will return to the contest, the senior from Louisville. 6 points on the day. 8:56 to play, and so, yes, center has lots of room to try and cover if they want to be back in this ball game. For Lynchburg as well, though, it's so important to close out ball games because we know in the ODAC, as we've talked about, lots of opponents will start sneaking up on you in those final 10 minutes.
Yeah, this is a good opportunity for Lynchburg to really put their foot on the gas and make this a very convincing win. If it finishes how it is, you're very comfortable. But, you know, if you really blow this game open, other teams in the ODAC start looking at you a little bit differently.
Lynchburg has done it a few times this season. If you remember that 54-point victory against Regent to open the year, that opened some eyes. As Miles Taylor, the nice vision to get the deuce. 70 points on the scoreboard for the Hornets. That's something that they have become accustomed to, being able to get those quick points in the first half, build that lead. Now it's just about maintaining. Taylor again finds a spot. No good. Something Coach Scott still might not appreciate in the second half. You don't want to have too many one-dimensional possessions, not funneling your offense through one or two people. You want to have lots of passes. Try to get that ball movement. Moore tips it out. Should be Lynchburg basketball, yes.
I completely agree with you about not having those one-dimensional possessions, especially, I mean, when you have the opportunity to play against a team who runs a zone like Center does. And obviously, I mean, Center may not be the best defensive team on paper outside the top 350 teams in defensive efficiency in the country. But, I mean, still, anytime you get that look, it's the same ideas whether the zone is working or not. I mean, get to your spots, hit your shots, and Miles Taylor's really trying to work his way to his spots.
Well, Taylor, you could say, is a veteran on this squad, and we know what he has been able to do just knowing the game of basketball. That can go such a long way, especially at this Division III level, and so many of Coach Scott's guys have earned the right to have the ball in their hands. But this still is a team that doesn't have one or two people that are just head and shoulders going to get more stats, more points than the other guys. It's all about by committee. And we know that in those late game situations, if you have 5 scorers on the court, it can make it so difficult for other teams to solve the puzzle.
Yeah, already today for Lynchburg, 11 players in that scoring column. So, I mean, very comfortable finding a lot of different people who can score. I mean, they usually go 12 or 13 deep. They've played 13 in this one. But, I mean, Lynchburg has looked very good on all aspects of their depth coming off of the bench.
Well, one of the guys who hasn't scored is starting point guard Jake Hart, but he does have 3 assists and 4 rebounds. So talk about your main number one having an impact on the game, but this time he got a little too rough and rugged as Center will have an and-one opportunity. It was Blake Stewart getting to the glass. And we will also take a quick break with a 17-point lead favoring the Hornets right here in Turner Gymnasium.
Lynchburg is all about you, your ideas, and your goals. We've got one professor for every 10 students, so you can get all the support you need. In the classroom, in the lab, or in nature. You'll learn by putting yourself out there, and we're right there with you.
.643 to play here in Lynchburg. If you're just joining in, welcome to the Wayne Prophet Classic. Game 2 of the day. We've had lots of great action. And tomorrow, you can come right back on LHSN, or if you're in the Hill City, drive out to the University of Lynchburg That was a beautiful wraparound down low from Stewart. He just couldn't get the pass off. And now Taylor on the other end, unable to connect. Second chance opportunity. He grabbed his own rebound. Center down, but not out. Four passes along the perimeter, no dribbles. That's an offense that Coach Mason will appreciate. Banks gets it back outside to Stewart for three, and a straight swish, so just a 14-point lead.
Yeah, coming out of that timeout, you have to imagine getting that first stop on the defensive end was that really key point, and then just going from there, let your offense flow as it is. You mentioned no dribbles. It worked out there for the Colonels, and they're only within 14 right now, so Lynchburg may be feeling a little bit of pressure on their backs.
It's going to be a foul down low on Stewart. Makovic will be going to the line for two. No, it will be on the floor, courtesy of our PA announcer, Tim LaDuca, as Cam O'Connor steps back into the ball game. 21 replacing 20. Now Lynchburg will have their inbounds offense. Maybe a quick hitter, but still 20 on the shot clock. Ross gets it in the corner. Now has that isolation if he wants it. Those longer possessions we talked about earlier in the ball game, using every ounce of those 30 seconds on the shot clock. Faust, it's going to be foul on the defense. Faust just trying to get downhill. And another on the floor foul, but it is the seventh, so Faust will go to the line for 1 and 1.
Yeah, good job by Faust there to get downhill and create the contact. It looked like he might have pushed off just a little bit, but either way, foul against center, and Faust an opportunity to extend on his already 12 points tonight.
Sometimes those plays when you see the offensive player getting roughed around a little bit, well, you don't see a lot of that defensive contact beforehand. Three from the corner, no good. The rebound went over everybody, and center starting to rack up some offensive rebounds. Now 7 on the day. Into the lane, back out as Banks tries to get to the hoop. He's going to be fouled by Miles Taylor, who is a little discontent. No, it's going to be on Cam O'Connor. So second foul, but Taylor will come out of the ball game as Pearson Young is back in. Also for center, Caleb Mall re-enters the contest.
Yeah, for center, I mean, their first shots haven't fallen, but they've gotten offensive rebounds on what feels like each of the last 3 or 4 possessions, and the Colonels just getting extra opportunities. They're starting to hit, and, you know, under 5 to go, they're kind of running out of time, but, I mean, they're only a few possessions away from working their way back in.
Well, it comes down to those fundamentals as well, long shots, long rebounds, and you have to expect center to start trying to get those threes rolling. Here's Jake Hart. Little one-handed action, just couldn't get the touch to fall. And on the other side, going to commit the foul. Hunter Coleman had a mission.
Yeah, not the best sequence of events there for Lynchburg. I mean, you're up 14 points, under 5 minutes to go. Really no reason to push down the tempo, trying to, you know, speed the game up. Jake Hart getting downhill, trying to make that layup in about the first 5 seconds of the shot clock. A welcome sight at times, but right now when really time is on your side, and that's pretty much what's going to help you work your way to getting this win. I mean, maybe longer possessions are really where Lynchburg needs to focus.
Well, now you're starting to really sense that Lynchburg will hold on for the victory. Just over 4 minutes to play, but definitely lots of those plays that can change the landscape of a ball game, at least how you look back at it. These two coaches hoping to get a good one, not just from today, but this tournament, as Dre Ross's shot goes over, but somehow Pearson Young, the lob pass to keep it in. Coach Scott on his feet. You can tell he wants to get a good look here. 9 on the shot clock. Young, the pump fake, tries to go under, no good. Faust now. This time it is an offensive foul. There's no selling that as Boffman goes down. Faust called for the foul.
Yeah, Boffman planted from the second that ball landed in Faust's hands, just in the right place at the right time. And whether he was initially reacting to that catch, I mean, either way, great defensive positioning. Gets another turnover. Colonel's going back the other way.
Those plays right under the basket can be tough to time. So many different charge rules this year about getting your feet set. Jonathan Faust got up. Athleticism on display. Seems like he can even still find a way to dunk it when he has a guy right on his shoulder, but still down to the basket, and Boffman wants a timeout. So we will keep it right here. 3:15 left from day one of the Wayne Prophet Classic, and Lynchburg just continuing to pour it on, trying to get their 6th win of the season.
Yeah, Lynchburg doing a really good job on the offensive end of finding those gaps in that zone defense. I mean, it obviously showed a lot more in the early parts of this game, knocking down those threes. We questioned whether they'd be able to keep that pace up, and yes, they are still shooting above 50% from behind the arc, and no matter who you're playing, if you're shooting that well, shooting 28 threes a game, I mean, it's going to be hard to lose any contest you play. But for center, I think a lot more of the last 3 minutes and 15 seconds of this contest don't really focus on coming back in this game. It's about picking up momentum for tomorrow. I mean, you're kind of at a tough point in your season. You're 4-4. You're playing Lynchburg, who's, you know, a very good ODAC team, and then you're getting Marymount tomorrow, who didn't really show it today against Randolph, but one of the most talented teams in the country, ranked 44th according to DataCast. I mean, it's one of those things for center, like if you can pick up momentum in the last 3 minutes and 15 seconds, carry that over to tomorrow, play a great game tomorrow against Randolph. I mean, it's going to be an interesting test.
Well, and here's what's interesting about Lynchburg's schedule as well. As you said, they face Marymount. This is a team they lost to at the beginning of last year. Lynchburg had an absolute gauntlet of a schedule to start non-conference play. You have Mary Washington, CNU. You also have a Marymount squad that doesn't necessarily get the credit it deserves because, yes, right outside of the rankings, but you still don't see them a whole lot different conference. And so for this matchup tomorrow, with the way that Lynchburg has come out and played today, same thing for center in these last couple of minutes. It's all about momentum. Maybe something we don't pay enough attention to. As Hunter Coleman caught for the travel, back into the game is Hudson Sparks. Or that will be number 30, Carson Wooldridge, excuse me. So center going back into their bench. Under 3 minutes to play. Sutton manning the point. Still lots of ball movement, lots of longer possessions. Lynchburg obviously not going to reach 100 today, but another one of those games they elevate in the first half, 46 points. Continuing to pour it on as Jonathan Faust, another easy one in the paint. Jonathan Faust, you know, he's one of those guys, it just seems like he's slowly getting better at making everybody on the floor play to his level, to his energy, and like Cam O'Connor, you can really run the offense around guys like that who have that athleticism. Sutton, pump fake, one dribble. And who else? Faust gets the offensive board. Out to O'Connor, the corner three, you know it.
Yeah, Lynchburg just firing on all cylinders on the offensive end. Faust up to 16 points. Cameron O'Connor up to 14 points now. I mean, Lynchburg knocking down threes at an incredible rate. They've got 16 of them already, shooting over 55%. I mean, it's going to be tough to really beat anyone at that level, but Lynchburg just trying to carry that momentum into tomorrow now.
It has been a candy sweet touch for Lynchburg, 16 of 29 from three-point range, and that corner store has been open all night long, just trying to solve that center zone defense. And an example of it from the very start, we know that center went out with a 1-3-1 defense. That's where you have to look. Those two corners opens up the rest of the court, and Lynchburg has taken advantage. Now going to be up 20, O'Connor with the rebound. Final 100 seconds of this contest. O'Connor, the pump fake, just missed the easy touch. Now the Colonels can try to get a few final possessions in. Sutton, nice hands on the floor, will be kept in play as Banks gets the quick pass to Wooldridge down low. Shot off the mark. So Lynchburg will advance to 6-4. Center still straddling that 500 mark. They will be 4-5 after tonight's contest. But still early in the season. Conference play still a decent ways away, but we do know that these two squads have played a couple conference games already. Sometimes it's good, too, to get a look at a couple teams early in the season before you face that full conference campaign. And Andy, we know with EMU and Randolph traveling to Lynchburg earlier in the year, that just gave the Hornets more experience. It gave them some looks that last year were a little bit different. We know EMU won a big victory to end the last season. So Lynchburg just getting confidence with each rep.
Yeah, and I mean, we mentioned it earlier, circle some of those teams towards, I mean, not necessarily the bottom, but that middle tier of the ODAC. I mean, we mentioned Shenandoah, obviously Lynchburg, Ferrum, Randolph. I mean, these are teams last year that kind of were out of most people's minds. I mean, Shenandoah, Lynchburg, Ferrum fighting for that final spot in the ODAC tournament last year. And, you know, before Ferrum came and played here in Turner Gymnasium, they were undefeated. Shenandoah just beat the number 3 team on their own floor. I mean, Lynchburg, obviously in that same situation, they haven't played any of those top-tier ODAC teams yet. Obviously Virginia Wesleyan being one of those, but not here in Turner. So I think Lynchburg has a lot of opportunities to do something very special this year, and it all starts just carrying momentum from not only the Wayne Prophet Classic, but their trip down to Florida as they head into conference play starting in January.
Certainly an exciting part of the schedule. Lynchburg back into the bench. Always good to see Elijah Davis, who has returned from injury, with the ball now. Kevon James and Tyler Buggs also on the floor for the first time. Sutton kicks it out to Buggs. Here's Davis for 3, knocks it down. He's looking at the bench and loving every second of it.
Always a fun time when Elijah Davis checks into the game. The hype man on the end of that bench, but doing a great job here in this contest of not only hyping his team up, but elevating their score.
Tuesday night, Banks still open. And we know that Davis is just one of those guys. It seems like when he is on the floor or off the floor, as he has been throughout the injury, it's just always good to find contributions in any way you can get. Lynchburg got plenty of them today, 17 three-pointers. It was raining in Turner Gymnasium, and they will advance to 6-4 with a 22-point victory. And Andy, Lynchburg early in the season, much different look from last season. They're keeping it going.
Yeah, they just seem very comfortable. I mean, this was a center team that promoted some challenges for this Lynchburg side. I mean, we mentioned that zone time and time again. It's not easy to break down, but, I mean, 17 three-pointers for Lynchburg, a mark that's pretty tough to beat, as you hear from the public address announcer, Tim LaDuca, down there saying the same thing we are up here. But, I mean, Lynchburg just needs to carry that momentum. I mean, center today, Marymount tomorrow. Tough contest. They did a great job in this one, but things are not dealt with yet. Lynchburg needs to focus moving now to tomorrow after this win today.
Well, you don't always have this back-to-back action in D3 basketball and college basketball in general. You have 2 of those, obviously, with this tournament and then going down to St. Petersburg. So you're going to learn to really respond quickly. And, yes, you want to make sure you enjoy tonight, but can't stay too high because you have another one in just a little bit. As we look at the stat sheet from today's contest, Lynchburg's leading scorer, again, John Faust, 16 points. He led against Davidson. 6 rebounds as well, with 2 steals on the board. And Faust, it just seemed like the offense really flowed around him. And then for center, they had a pretty even distribution of scores tonight, but Isaiah Villafuerte with 10 points, the only one in double figures for the Colonels. And yes, they come out with the loss tonight, but lots of positive signs. And again, going back against Randolph tomorrow, certainly a game that they can come out and win.
Yeah, center, I mean, they looked good in flashes. I think the early part of the contest, they were a little bit shaken about the fact that Lynchburg was knocking down threes at the clip that they were. It's not something you see all that often, but, you know, it's a Randolph team coming off of the high of beating a really good Marymount team earlier today. They're going to be trying to continue that tomorrow. Center, the exact opposite. Blowout loss, not exactly the most comfortable feeling, but still one more game tomorrow against a great team in Randolph, an opportunity to really jumpstart your season as you head into conference play.
Well, we are certainly excited for it, and Andy, you'll be back again tomorrow. We have Center taking on Randolph at 1, Lynchburg versus Marymount at 3 o'clock, and And one final question before we go. You know, you think about where Lynchburg is at from a non-conference standpoint, very good spot, but Marymount, again, it's a squad that is going to be imposing their will, lots of toughness. So not even just with tomorrow's game, but going into break, what can Lynchburg really be happy about as they move away from the Wayne Prophet Classic?
I mean, just the opportunity to see teams that you often don't see. I mean, it's not often you play against a team who runs 2 sets of zones in the same possession. I mean, I personally haven't seen Lynchburg face anyone like that. And then Marymount just offers that kind of physicality and that size that you don't really see. I mean, I think Virginia Wesleyan is kind of the school that comes to mind for me in rivaling that size and physicality in the ODAC. But, I mean, Lynchburg is getting opportunities to play teams, play styles that you may see later, maybe see in the postseason. And, you know, the opportunity to play back-to-back games is also the same thing. I mean, that's something you have to do well once you move on to conference play, especially in the tournament. So, I mean, Lynchburg just taking in the advantage of playing teams like Davidson, like Marymount, like Center, who offer you so many different challenges, and kind of just learning from that as they move forward.
Well, new reps, same Lynchburg squad. They get it done today in the Hill City, 82-60 over Center. And tomorrow we'll resume the action from the Wayne Prophet Classic. So on behalf of Andy Watson, I'm Evan Gates. Would like to thank our entire crew, and we're saying so long from the Hill City.